On this edition, I'm going to talk about Anderson Silva being sued by his old manager, Rudimar Fedrigo. Now, here's what happened is that Anderson Silva came out with this biography that has stirred up a lot of controversy with specific stories in the book, and it all culminates to what has happened recently, and that's Rudimar Fedrigo suing Anderson Silva. Now, what he's suing Anderson Silva over is moral indemnification, and what he's saying is that it's almost destroying his image. It's harming his image for himself, and what he's also asking is that this book is not allowed to be sold. He's asking for no copies of this book to be sold anymore, this biography of Anderson Silva. So what I'm going to do on this side is I'm going to look at it from both sides. Is that I can't just look at it from Rudimar Fedrigo's side, is that you also have to look at it from Anderson Silva's side, is that there are always two sides to a story. Is that, you know, there's one side of the story, there's another side of the story. Obviously Anderson Silva and Rudimar Fedrigo have their own sides. Either the two stories add up, or there's one side of the story that doesn't add up to the other. So that's what this court case is going to get to the bottom of. So from Rudimar Fedrigo's side, is that what happens is that Anderson Silva recently came out with the biography, and what it says about Rudimar Fedrigo in this book is that one, that he is a bad person, and two, that he's not qualified, and questions his grading, and it says bad things about him. Not a ton of bad things, but it says bad things about him. And what doesn't add up to him is the fact that things have been good between him and Anderson Silva in person. Is that he saw Anderson Silva recently in a hotel room before jungle fights. Nothing bad was said. No bad words exchanged back and forth. Everything was cool. And also in 2004, Anderson Silva wrote a letter, which he does have a copy of, which he's going to also use in the court case, is the fact that this letter sings the praises of Rudimar Fedrigo, saying what a great person he is, all these other good things about him. And he has this stuff in his arsenal in regards to this court case, but it just doesn't seem to add up, because then in the book it says bad things about him. So Rudimar Fedrigo doesn't really understand how things have been good in person, but Anderson Silva goes and says another thing. And he said a couple things about Anderson Silva. Is that one, is that Anderson Silva is being very ungrateful. Two, he's saying he's being very two-faced, and he doesn't seem to get this, is that he also was, being his manager at the time, is that he got Anderson Silva to fight outside of Brazil. He really got Anderson Silva's name out there. It almost like it was his idea to have Anderson Silva start fighting in other promotions and outside of Brazil. That's the way to get your name out there. Now, I'm not saying that Rudimar Fedrigo is the reason why Anderson Silva is successful, because obviously Anderson Silva's fighting itself is the reason why he's successful. His fighting took care of the rest. Okay, but it was his idea to have him fight outside of Brazil in different promotions. So what he's saying is that he's ungrateful for that, and he doesn't understand why Anderson Silva could say bad things about him, but when everything else, when he has all this evidence and all these other things, and seen him in person, everything is good. So what you have to look at in regards to these bad things and hurting his image in regards to this, you have to look at it from Fedrigo's standpoint, is that this does hurt his image and his reputation. Not only himself. It does not help when someone says bad things about you, especially someone who is an icon, a very popular person in the media, and a big known person in Brazil and all around the world is saying that you're a bad person, that you're not qualified, especially when, one, you're a manager of fighters, and two, that you're an owner of a shoot box school. It hurts his image, but it also hurts his business. Is that people are not going to want to train and have a manager like Rudimar Fedrigo if he is a bad person and not qualified. People are going to be more persuaded by what Anderson Silva says about Rudimar Fedrigo and his school and himself than Rudimar Fedrigo can do by training fighters, managing fighters, and running a school. That's just what it comes down to. And I think with Rudimar Fedrigo saying, it's almost like this was the last thing that he wanted to do, because he said, unfortunately, things needed to happen. And obviously that was suing Anderson Silva. So it does sound like it was the last thing he wanted to do, given their past, but he does have to preserve his image. And I think suing Anderson Silva and trying to get to the bottom of this is probably the best way he can go about it, really. If someone's saying bad things about you, what are you going to do? You can try and prove it yourself, but whose word are people going to take? Your word or Anderson Silva's word? So I think people, I'd say a majority of people would believe Anderson Silva instead of Rudimar Fedrigo. So Rudimar Fedrigo is suing Anderson Silva. So that's Rudimar Fedrigo's side of the story, with my perspective as well. But I'm not here to drag either person through the mud. I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. I'm just presenting it from both sides. So I'm not here to do it to Rudimar Fedrigo. I'm not here to do it to Anderson Silva as well, because in regards to Anderson Silva, is that, yeah, Rudimar Fedrigo's come out with all this. He does have evidence. He does have things that do add up. But however, Anderson Silva has not made a comment in regards to anything, in regards to being sued, or the letters, or obviously the statement in the book that's set in stone, the things that he said about Fedrigo. But there could be a whole other side to this story that we haven't even heard about. There could also be no side to the story, really. Anderson Silva could be, I don't know, he could be caught in between his words. However, Anderson Silva could have his reasons on why he put these things in the book. So you have to look at it from that standpoint. You can't just be quick to jump to the gun and say that Anderson Silva is this horrible person. Okay. However, there are going to be plenty of people. There are going to be people that are completely against Anderson Silva, that are haters. They're going to say that he's this awful person and he's two-faced and he's just a bad person. And there's going to be people for Anderson Silva who are diehard fans who are going to say that Rudimar Fedrigo is totally full of it. But Anderson Silva's he's going to come out with the statement. He's going to defend himself the best he can. And we're going to find out more and more about this. So the best advice I can give is that Anderson Silva does have his side of the story, and he has not presented it yet. So I'd say take this whole thing with a grain of salt. Fedrigo has made his points, and now it's time for Anderson Silva to speak and state his side of the story. So take it with a grain of salt. I think for the MMA community as a whole, it would be not to jump the gun quickly. We do see the facts. We do see the evidence there. But I'd say wait till Anderson Silva comes out with his side of the story. And it could add up. He could be caught in his words, or he could have something completely different about Fedrigo that we don't know about. So take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, with this court case, more and more things are going to come out. We're going to find more about this situation as a whole. So I'd say be patient, sit back, and let's see what happens in regards to this situation. So hopefully these two guys could bury the hatchet, given their past. Obviously, not their most recent occurrences or just their recent things that have happened between each other. But hopefully they could bury the hatchet, given their past. And really, that's the best way I could go about it. Look at it from both sides and not just one side. And that's what I have for this edition. It's Kyle Delaney.